Hello, everybody. Today we will conduct point load test, and the apparatus is here. We're going to test a few samples, and these samples are sandstone. Before we test the samples, we need to measure the size of each sample, and we'll start with this big one. You see, this is core sample. It's pretty long. We need to make sure that it fits the standard, and if you look at the standard here for this particular sample, we need to make sure that the diameter, and we also need to measure the L, and L should be more than half the diameter. So this is what we're going to do right now. Diameter of this sample is about 51 millimeters, and when we measure L, it's about I would say about 32 millimeters. So this is fine. This means that half of the diameter will be about 25, which is less than L, so we can use this sample for testing. Now let's see if we can use these two little samples. In this case, we're going to have a different setup as the one shown here. We need to again measure D, which is the thickness of the sample. And we need to make sure that this D is less than width, and width will be, I believe, about 50. Yes, and also it should be higher than 0.6 times the width. And unfortunately, when we measure D, it gives very low value of 20 millimeters, so it's not going to fit in this equation. For this reason, we cannot use this sample for testing, which means that we cannot use the sample as two. So fortunately, we have another one, the same type of rock. It's a little bit thicker, and when we measure the D, that will give us about 48 millimeters, and the diameter of this core sample is 52 millimeters. So this is actually will fit this criteria, so we can use the sample for testing. I would like to know that when we do this test, usually one or two samples is not enough. We will need to conduct at least 3 tests on the same type of rock. If we test more samples, like 4 or 5, it's even better because we can get much better and more reliable results. Okay, now let's do the test. We'll start with this big one. Safety first. I'm going to wear these snazzy glasses. Okay, I'm going to put it right here between these two cones. And I'm going to measure the force that we apply. The force that we apply, we measure in newtons. And now I'm going to start the test. I'm going to increase it slowly until the sample is broken. Now we can see the peak force that we applied. It's 3.2 kilonewtons. And we're going to write it down in our spreadsheet. Force 3.2 kilonewtons. And the diameter was 51 millimeters. OK. So now we're going to test the other sample, and we're going to apply a load in this direction, in the axial direction. I will need to reset the point load apparatus. Make sure that we measure diameter. 51.5. Okay, now we're going to start the test. You will see we slowly apply the load. Oops. It broke a little bit earlier. We see that for this test, the maximum force was only 0.265. Sometimes it happens if you look at the sample, you will see that they was cracked. It was cracked here at the bottom, which happens especially when the sample is pretty weathered. So this is what pretty weathered sample. Usually we disregard this test because you see the failure wasn't through the sample, it was only at the site, which is a good example what tests we consider and what results we don't consider. So what we can do, we can still redo the test and get the value. That's what I'm going to do one more time. I will reset the test. So I need to measure again the D of the sample because it changed. So the diameter of this core sample is the same, but this value of D, it's now 39.4. And okay, now let's apply load again, see if we can break it. Well, this time we have 0.694 kilonewtons. So again, it's a little bit low for this type of sample, but again, as you can see, it broke right on the side. So we have to be careful when we test sample. We need to observe the failure plane and see what is going on. Not just get the numbers and write them down, but we still need to look at the samples. So this is really good examples how we do this test. thanks for watching this video, and have a nice day.